Welcome back. I'm Jason, your MC for the next, day and a half, I guess now. And welcome to the Modern Data Stack Conference. This next session is sponsored by Snowflake. Let me introduce Gary Sahota, who is the Senior Manager of Analytics with Clari. So Gary, go ahead and take it over.
Sounds great. Thanks, Jason. Hi, everyone. My name is Gary Sahota, and as Jason mentioned, I am the Senior Manager of Analytics at Clari. And today we'll be talking about driving innovation and revenue via analytics. And so I think we should be ready to rock and roll. And there we go. Alrighty, well, as I mentioned, I run the analytics team at Clari, and what that really means, we'll get into in a minute. But for context, my background is both in the data warehousing database space, along with data analytics and data science. I've worked at companies like Citus Data, which is now part of Microsoft Azure Postgres, Jasper Wireless, which is part of Cisco IoT, and was part of the core Cisco technical services team as well. I have an MBA from UC San Diego, which is a dual degree in both marketing and analytics, along with an undergrad from Fresno State here in California. And so diving right in, before I get into what I do, I wanted to spend a few moments talking about what Clari does as a company. And Clari is a revenue operations platform. And what that really means is we try to help the different revenue teams in companies sell better. And we believe that revenue is not just is a process, not just an outcome. And how that really works, it's pretty interesting. We have a whole host of different paths you can go around trustworthy data, which then leads to your pipeline insights, which helps lead sales execution, which then leads to revenue prediction. And that ultimately helps with the operating plan to then help drive companies' decisions in investment and how they want to grow. And really, when you're looking at trying to grow a company, the revenue is a big portion of that. And so understanding how sales execution can be improved upon, how deals can be moving along in a particular quarter, and really having predictable revenue is a key point in most of our customers and what they ask for. And so trying to bring all of those insights from a CRM, which is where most sales agents store their data right now, and visibly showcase that information anywhere from a individual sales executive all the way up to sales leadership and sales executives is really hard to do. And so that's where Clari comes in and sits on top of the entire CRM platform to provide those valuable insights directly back so you can make the investments where you need to make them. And so Clari's been around for about 7 years. We have over 280 enterprise customers, and we've raised over $135 million. But that's all great, but at the same time, what's the value we've brought to our customers? We've analyzed over 1.2 billion emails, 185 billion data points to help you drive decisions around what deals you should be following up on, what deals you need to be focused and paying more attention to, and overall just helping generate pipeline, over $600 billion of pipeline value processed as well. And this is all within just 2019. So that's a lot. We have some very reputable investors as well. And we're really just growing, trying to help people sell better. And so that being said, I'm going to take a moment and talk about the analytics team. And before we do that, would love to have the poll and poll everyone here asking how many of you guys feel the same way when all the various stakeholders in a particular company are asking you for requests.
Sure. So Jason here again. If you go into Pathable and there's the chat window, on that same window, there's a poll tab. You can go and answer the poll. That would be great. I will then summarize what I'm seeing after we get some responses.
And while we're doing that, Jason, do you mind if I just quickly talk through this slide as well?
Feel free.
Awesome.
Also, production team, I'm not seeing poll results. I'm only seeing my own answer. Oh, sorry, my bad. Now I'm seeing it. 96% yes, Gary.
Perfect. Okay, that's exactly what I expected. Here at Clari, we are a centralized analytics team, meaning that rather than having individual functions have analysts within the specific teams, we funnel all our requests to one particular team, AKA me, and really help try to drive decision-making in a centralized fashion. And so any given day, I can be working on things from board of directors prep and providing insights on how COVID has impacted our revenue predictions for the next year, to sales execution on helping with rep productivity and helping coach sales reps on how to sell better, to even product or finance related decisions on what our pricing should be or what types of features should we be looking into building out as well. And so I'm sure many people feel the same way, and I'm here to tell you that that is exactly how I operate as well. And I'm here to talk a little bit about how that can actually change, and how you can shift the conversation to not just provide insights, but really help drive actionable and tangible changes within the company as well. And so, okay, cool. So my goal as a function, I've been at Clari now for about 7 months, and while that doesn't seem like a lot of time, we've moved fast, and we've done a lot in that time as well. Before coming into this role, there was no one in this function either, and so the opportunity was mine to either take or to flounder in. And so I set this goal pretty early on in joining Clari around just the three pillars of data analytics and insights and what that can really mean for Clari. So starting with automation and consolidation of all of our data into a single source of truth, help spin up a enterprise data warehouse, which I'll go into in a minute. Standardizing and orienting teams on a single point of view for metrics. That's critical as well, because many times, as you guys probably know, having data come in from various sources can be interpreted differently and can really be bent to the ways of specific agendas. And really, that's what we're trying to prevent, and have everyone look at the same thing at the same time, so that ultimately we can go to the third pillar, which is data-driven decision-making. And that's really just powering Clarion cross-functionally to be able to do so. And while this seems very simple, it's a very ambitious goal. And there's a lot of moving parts in here, from how we have a data warehouse and ETL solution, how we're deciding to build out our various insights, and what metrics do we want to standardize around against. But then also Clari being an analytics platform in many ways, what do I build internally versus what do we build into our product, so that our team and our customers can have access to that as well. And so that's pretty interesting. I mean, where I fit in on all of this, and really let's orient ourselves on that first, is looking at the various teams in a pre-analytics world prior to me joining. The various departments would go to their respective business applications. We've implemented things like Salesforce, Mixpanel, Pendo, Outreach, Marketo, and so on and so forth for the various teams. And they've done a pretty good job of setting them up properly so that they can look at the insights for their teams within those specific tools. But the problem was that, the data that you look at in Mixpanel, for example, is siloed into just what Mixpanel provides, or just what Marketo can see. And so a lot of times decision-making was made within that silo as well. And so that's where our Clari product came into play, is really helping, make sure that Clari could, for at least the revenue function and the revenue use case, provide that holistic picture to ultimately help drive our own revenue forward as well. And so we do dog food our own product, but at the same time are constantly iterating on what our sales team needs to build a better product so that we can help our customers as well. But this still wasn't working out very well, because outside of the revenue use case, we had a lot of requests coming from our customer success team, our marketing team, our finance teams as well. And while ultimately on our roadmap, we would love to account and accommodate for those types of use cases as well, we're just not there yet. And so that's where now I sit in as well, is taking data not just from the individual business applications, but also our core product itself, and providing the BI dashboards and insights and reporting that's necessary to really drive cross-functional decision making. But usually in many analytics organizations, this is where the buck stops. We start here, you might have your core product that you're using, and you might have an analytics team that does internal work. But something that I've actually been able to instrument over the last few months that I found particularly unique to my role is being able to inspire innovation back into the product as well. And I know some teams might have been able to do this in the past with their respective functions, or within the respective orgs as well. But Clari is pretty unique in this regard, that they're very receptive to these changes as well, but they also treat analytics as a breeding ground for innovation. And that's really unique, because I feel like many times analytics teams get shunned into a corner around, hey, give me the reports, give me the insights, and crunch the numbers we need so that we can answer the questions we need. And it becomes a game of cat and mouse between questions asked and insights provided. And I'm really breaking outside of that mold and trying to say, well, this is all great, but just like we have these requests here internally, I'm sure our customers are facing the same issues or asking the same questions. So how can we start accounting for that within our core revenue operations platform so that it's not just us having that, we can share that knowledge and that expertise to everyone else as well. And so part of my time now is actually spent working with the product team and helping influence and design different features and modules that coincide with the learnings that I've had just from what I've been servicing internally to the company. And so that's really why I call this presentation Driving Innovation and Revenue via Analytics, because when you have the innovation, and you have the grounds to be able to go iterate and build and constantly work with the individual leaders within a function to just build what they want and see what you really want to focus on and really provide the insights in a way that is consumable. Um, that's great. It's awesome. You're providing value, and frankly, I as a function only focus on needle moving analytics. Like I'm only focused on things that can impact company growth. We're at this stage where we're now starting to grow a tremendous amount of reputable customers. We're gaining in our annual recurring revenue, and so by combining just the needle moving analytics that I already focus on, along with being this now innovation hub, it leads to long-term product maturity. And so not only do my learnings influence our product, but they also make visible impacts with our customers as well. And so that's where the revenue part comes in. So innovation comes from the core analytics and what we already do every day. But by building the relationship with product, we now are able to build product maturity and build features and functionality that our customers might want to see, ultimately driving more revenue, ultimately driving just more stickiness with our platform as well. And we're already starting to see this come into play as we build out features. While I can't talk about all the features that we have right now that are in pipeline since I've joined, what I can say is that they're in direct response to what the customer needs already were, and what I was able to visibly show them. And I promise you, even your own product teams will respond way better to having a physical proof of concept live in a Tableau-like or BI tool than they would to any mock-up any designer could ever make, because you'll be able to experiment with live data, you'll be able to experiment with your own data, and if you're able to provide impact right there, you'll be able to productize that and provide impact to the customers as well, and that's huge. That helps drive revenue, and I'm already starting to see where we can start building spin-off add-ons or spin-off features that can really drive that and make Clari the ultimate billion-dollar unicorn down the road, because it is a never-ending cycle. You know, as we build out our product and we really are servicing the revenue use case and expand into the finance, the marketing, the customer success use cases, revenue as a function, the sales team as a function, never work in a silo. They're working cross-functionally already in your respective orgs to be able to close deals. And so as our product begins to mature, there's going to be new types of questions that are asked. And there's going to be a new type of just interesting perspectives that they need to see so that they can continue driving better products and be able to continue selling those products as well. And so in those instances, specifically for Clari at least, our product is one that works cross-functionally. It works from both all the way at the individual contributor level, all the way to some of our customers use Clari in their board of directors reporting at the end of every quarter. And so with a product that's so vertically integrated across the entire revenue function, it only makes sense for us to be able to solve the needs in more and more ways and be able to continue providing that as well. And so while I'm doing that, a common question that I get is that, what happens when what you've built in your BI tool then becomes part of the product? Like, don't you feel cannibalized in many ways? Or isn't there some redundancy in what you're building and what you're working on? And there's really not, because I've set up the expectations with the product team in a way where, as we're productizing features and functionality, I shut those features off in the BI tool and have people go to our core product to be able to use those features and drive those insights. And that's personally satisfying for me, because I feel like I can now go and continually innovate. Like a lot of times BI, after a certain point in the maturity model, just become a service team, right? They're just constantly servicing and maintaining what's already existing, and it takes a lot to build something new. Well, for me, I get to shut things off after a certain point in time and after the product has fully adopted it and go work on something completely new. And so it's forcing me to always be innovative. It's forcing me to be an entrepreneur in many ways within a bigger company that's already a startup that's starting to grow. And so I actually love this never ending cycle. For some, it might be daunting, but I feel like with the right direction and the right support, it's actually quite favorable for the entire team. And so this is how I do it. This architecture slide is very simplistic, and I'm sure many of you guys have questions around how we're doing things or why we're doing things the way we are. But in a nutshell, all of our different business applications funnel in through Fivetran into our Snowflake data warehouse, which is where we then use Tableau as our BI tool to drive insights and build our dashboards on top of as well. And so, like I mentioned, 7 months ago, I joined. We had none of this in place, and so I went through the entire process of deciding who our ETL provider is going to be, who our warehouse provider is going to be, what our BI tool is, and what BI tool of choice do we want to use, which is pretty crazy because many times Clari itself is competing against internally built dashboards when trying to sell. And so having to balance that and be able to showcase the value of still needing a BI tool and what we can do with that BI tool as well was an interesting challenge as well. But ultimately, I chose this stack for many different reasons. But the simplest way put, my time is very limited, and I needed things to be effortless. And so while yes, I own the entire function, spinning up a data warehouse, spinning up the ETL data pipelines, building out all the different dashboards, and then going back and maintaining relationships with the various stakeholders and executives in the company and with our customers seems like a team, seems like it would be a big team to be able to do all of that. Right now, it's just me. I'm a one-man army. I'm actually going out and doing all of this in my own time, learning on my own time as well. I'm thankful that my background is one such that I've have a lot of this experience and I've done a lot of these things before, so I can pretty much ramp up pretty quickly with this tech stack. But until I can hire more people and until I can build out my own team, I needed something from a tech stack perspective that was very simplistic, very easy to configure and maintain so that I can be driving those revenue impacting insights and decisions and really help get our product as mature as possible, as fast as possible. And so some of the things that I was looking for were like extensive data sources, automatic schema migration, JSON support, a super easy UI and UX. And that's really where I ended up choosing Fivetran and Snowflake. And that's exactly why I'm here talking as well, because Snowflake sponsored me, but Fivetran and I have a really, really good relationship as well. And so this is my end game, right? Like I know many of you folks have questions around like, what are you trying to do? Why are you trying to do it in this way? And why did you end up choosing, an ELT provider versus an ETL provider? Why not go, if you're an AWS company for your product, why not go with Amazon Redshift? And there's hours and hours of discussions there as to why I chose the tech stack I did. But really, at the end of the day, for me, it was that I wanted effortless technology that was easy to set up and very minimal ongoing maintenance, because that leads to me having more time in my day to really focus on higher impact analytics and really focus on the projects and priorities that matter most to the company. And when I'm able to focus on those, that leads to faster innovation. That leads to me being able to take my learnings and productize them a lot faster, because I'm not only able to iterate and show what exactly we want within our product, but also be able to answer the questions faster, which everyone knows here. The time to value and the time to insight is a key KPI for what I look at and what I'm measured against as well. And as we're productizing that, as we're learning more and innovating faster, that leads to more value, not just for Clari as a company, but for our customers. Especially in the SaaS business, customers want to be able to, as they continue paying for a product, to extract more and more value out of that product as well. And while we already do a lot with deal inspection, with pipeline insights, with forecastability, we're now introducing new features like account engagement and team engagement, which you can see, how your team is performing, where are your sales reps spending the most amount of time, which accounts do they need to go and reach out to more. Those are all great, but there's so many more valuable insights and so much more value our customers can be getting out of the product. And it's just a matter of getting those features and functionalities built in first. And once all of that's done, once all of that's built, and we can really start providing that value, that's what leads to the more revenue. That's what leads to features that aren't just hypothetical in nature, but have actually been battle tested because we dog fooded them internally with our BI tools. And so many times, like that's another issue that product managers have is, theorizing and deciding which feature is going to be the most impactful to make. Well, I help make that decision a lot easier. I'm building those internally. I'm able to showcase the value and showcase how hard or difficult things are actually to build. It might not look the prettiest, but that's what productizing it will fix. And so the faster we get those, the faster we have value, the more revenue we can generate. And that's ultimately how I justify my existence as well. Because at the end of the day, if I have contributed to even a couple of $1 million more in revenue than they were originally expecting because of an insight that ultimately led to a dashboard, which ultimately led to a feature, that in itself justifies my existence and really puts analytics as a function, as a core need, and a strategic investment in the company. And so that's it from my side. I wanted to keep this pretty quick and high level. I wanted to leave this open for more questions than anything else. And so, Jason, I'm going to turn it over to you in case there's any questions.
Great. I would prompt everyone, if you have questions for Gary, please pose them in the chat in Pathable. We do have one that just came in, Gary. What are you using, if anything, between Snowflake and Tableau to maintain your data pipelines?
Great question. So right now I have DBT is something I'm exploring with right now, but most of my data pipelines are, and the transformations that I do are all done within the Fivetran environment. Fivetran has the transformations feature. And so I'll write a lot of my SQL query within the Snowflake worksheets and just test it. And once it works, throw it into the transformation and just schedule a transformation to run whenever I need it to.
Mm-hmm. You said that you're a team of one, and sounds to me like you're quite busy. You've got data sources, schemas, and everything to manage and little time to do it. How do you decide when it's time to bring on a new data source to power your company's decision-making process?
That's a great question. I think it really comes down to the questions that are being asked of me and the impact those questions will provide. So, for example, we had a question around quota attainment, and our sales leaders were saying that our quotas are too high and our sales reps are not set up for success, and that might lead to demoralization and ultimately attrition within the company. And so being able to understand quota attainment over time is something that our product in theory should be able to do, but isn't able to do just yet. And so they came to me and said, hey, can we actually go look at this? And now there's a whole host of reasons as to what we would want to see and how we'd want to see it. But long story short, that's data that did not live within our Salesforce instance, for example, that I would need to go get out of our ERP or out of our payroll system. And so that became a question of, okay, well, is employee attrition something that's actually valuable to the company, which it is, right? Not just to the sales team, but to the HR team and ultimately to the CEO as well. And so it made the justification of adding in sensitive, employee data into our data warehouse pretty effortless. Like we decided, okay, well, we need to have this in here. This is the way we're going to display the information. These are the insights that folks will be able to see. And so, from the time that was decided to the time that data was in there was pretty quick because of how easy it is to load data in with Fivetran and how quickly we were able to build dashboards around that afterwards.
Got it. How do you avoid getting caught up looking at new features versus educating Clarians how to act and harness their data capabilities?
Also a great question. So I, being such a small team, have to really rely on the overall company to be able to do anything outside of what I can do on my own. And so I'm fortunate enough that Clari is a very collaborative environment. And so we've been able to really set up our entire company in a way where there aren't really many barriers between orgs and between teams. Which means that if you need help with anything, there's already 5 people raising their hand to actively be able to help you. And so I've plugged in directly with the sales enablement team who is already working on things for the sales team in particular to build specific enablement and training sessions and really just take what's in my head and scale that beyond just what I can do on my own and be able to build trainings and they then took what they've done and what they learned for the sales function and the sales related dashboards and helped the CS ops teams to be able to train our CSMs. And then from there, we were able to take it to finance and from marketing. And so it became a cascading effect of where when one person helps, everyone else can just iterate on that for their respective functions.
Totally agree. You're obviously busy, as I just said that, and you're meeting the needs. How do you keep your skills sharp? I mean, how do you stay abreast of new things to learn, both hard skills and soft skills?
Yeah. So I think for me, it has to be a healthy balance. Like as much as I love to get into the weeds of data modeling and setting up pipelines and dashboarding schedules and such, I go out and attend conferences. I learn about what's new in the tech space around BI and analytics. I have I think bi-monthly meetings with all of my vendors and just being able to go talk to them, learn from them what's new, what's coming in the pipeline. And try to sandbox and use that as much as possible as well. And so, I'm not afraid of just having to start from scratch and redo something, even if it's an extra couple of hours of work, because I know that in the long term, it's going to help me learn a lot more as well. And so that's what I did when I was doing the evaluations behind choosing Fivetran versus Snowflake, Fivetran versus other competitors, Snowflake versus other competitors. And it's what I'm going to continue doing as well, like spending the time and energy, learning the tools, learning the text, but then also just attending conferences. And I have meetups and I have folks that I try to connect with all the time so that I can, just keep my knowledge sharp and be able to just learn from them as much as they can learn from me.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's funny how that shift with having to stay in and COVID, it's really on you to keep your skills sharp. I mean, we used to be able to just go to meetups and hang out, but now you got to seek them, and then you got to take that info and run with it and develop that school. Well, hey, I don't have any other questions. Let me check. We are good. I appreciate the quality and the brevity of your presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jason. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. As a programming note, at the bottom of the hour, so at 1:30 Pacific, we're going to have a panel around driving analysis and insights with a modern data stack with 4 amazing fellows who are going to join us. So you now have a few minutes to go take a quick break, but let's get back here right at 1:30, go to the next Pathable event, and we'll join at that point. Thank you so much.
Once upon a time, in a country known for its fine art and architecture, 2 boys were born, Benoit and Thierry.
You know, Thierry, I love data and I love computer science.
Me too.
Not only did Thierry and Benoit love big data, but they grew pretty fond of each other.
And I think you would call it a bromance.
Benoit was given the opportunity by an early investor to re-architect a data warehouse in the cloud entirely from scratch.
And I knew that there was no way I could build Snowflake on my own, so I needed Thierry because together we have amazing idea and he's the most optimistic guy I know.
They decided to quit their jobs, buy a printer, whiteboard, and start working out of Benoit's apartment in San Mateo.
So basically we propose a brand new architecture for the cloud. It is an architecture which is designed to support fault isolation, performance isolation, and elasticity of the cloud.
So what we wanted to do is to build a system that would adapt, the resources that was used based on the demand, such that for customers they would only pay for what they use, and also so that the system would scale to infinity.
Yeah, what he says.
So that's the story of how 2 people with a shared passion for data built a cloud data platform from scratch that changed the world. Or at least change how we store and analyze enormous amounts of data.
Yeah.